I want to talk about MAGA and Republican lawmakers' responses after Charlie Kirk's demise and how they really highlight the thinking, the worldview of the political right in this country. So keep in mind, Charlie Kirk's entire career was spent advocating for dehumanization and violence against Black people, immigrants, trans folks, women. Before I discuss MAGA and namely Republican Nancy Mace's responses, I think it's really important that we look at some of the things that Charlie Kirk actually said. After all, we're trying to understand the worldview, the thinking, the outlook, not only of Charlie, but also of Turning Point, Charlie's followers, and the alt-right. In 2023, Charlie said, "I think it's worth it to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment." And by that, he meant the NRA's interpretation of the Second Amendment. He also said, "I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think that empathy is a made-up New Age term that does a lot of damage." Now, we've seen multiple far-right Christo-fascist pastors repeating this message from the pulpit on their Manosphere podcast, saying that empathy is a sin, it's a scourge, and we need to do away with it. Now, these next couple of things that Charlie Kirk said, I would like you to listen to very carefully. When he was on Jubilee's Surround, he said that Black people were better in the 1940s. It was bad, it was evil, but what happened? Something changed. They committed less crimes. Black America is worse than it has been in the last 80 years. He was saying that Black Americans were better off and were better, for white people before the Civil Rights Movement. Of Michelle Obama, Sheila Jackson Lee, Ketanji Brown Jackson, and respected journalist Joy Ann Reid, he said that they were affirmative action picks and went on to say, "Black women do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to be taken somewhat seriously." There's no dog whistles here, y'all. The racism and especially misogynoir from Charlie Kirk was overt. He also had a preference for blending his racism with his transphobia. He compared trans identity to blackface at a Turning Point USA event a couple of years ago. He said, "A man who calls himself trans is wearing woman face. No different than I would wear blackface trying to be a Black person. It's assuming an identity that isn't yours." His hateful, despicable rhetoric was not just limited to Black folks and trans folks, it also went to women. On the subject of child pregnancy after sexual assault, he said, when asked how he would advise his daughter in a disturbing scenario like that one, I think his daughter was something like 8 or 10 years old at the time, he said, "The answer is yes, the baby would be delivered." Thinking of his own daughter being sexually assaulted and getting pregnant, he said he would want her to have to go through with the pregnancy. I mean, there's just, right, endless numbers of quotes of horrific things that he said and advocated for and funneled into the minds of young men in this country. Right before he was killed, Charlie was asked if he knew how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years, and his response was immediately a racist dog whistle. He said, "Counting or not counting gang violence." Anytime you hear people on the right say gang, thug, urban, we understand the context is racism against Black Americans. And this is where I want to talk about how MAGA responded after Kirk was shot. By the way, by a white heterosexual man, Mormon from Utah, from a Republican gun-loving family. And I know that there's speculation online right now that the alleged shooter may have been a Nick Fuentes fan of Groyper, like a 4chan alt-right kid, but we don't know enough yet. We do know the regime have been trying to paint the shooter as being on the political left, as being a liberal, even before they knew anything about him, no identification. The presumption was it must be somebody on the left, even though Charlie Kirk actually got threats from other people on the right. Understanding what kind of thinking Charlie was infecting his audience with, we shouldn't be surprised to see immediate responses like this one from Representative Nancy Mace. We'll never skip an opportunity to grab the spotlight and say the most despicable things.
I'm going to say this. Democrats own what happened today. I am devastated. My kids have called panicking. All the kids of every conservative in the country called panicking. Just because you speak your mind on an issue doesn't mean you get shot
then by that logic, do Republicans own the shooting of the two Democratic lawmakers in Minnesota? Isn't this on both sides?
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm asking.
We
a
don't
serious
know what
question.
condition Charlie Kirk is in right now. Some raging leftist lunatic put a bullet through his neck, and you want to talk about Republicans right now? No.
No, I'm asking
no, not
you.
at all.
You said the Democrats
no, this
have donated
is
to,
on.
but I'm asking,
Democrats own this.
But isn't there a problem
this.
with political violence across the spectrum?
Yeah, we're talking about Charlie Kirk.
Bless that reporter. By the way, this is what journalistic integrity looks like. We see so many in the media right now softballing all of the Republicans, massaging them, not asking them the hard questions, and uncritically accepting their absolute bullshit. This gentleman here, real reporting. Now, you saw how Nancy Mace spun that. Before we knew a single thing about the shooter, she was immediately assuming it was going to be a transgender person, using slurs to describe trans people. Then she went on to say this is the radical left with zero evidence. She was spinning it to fit her bigoted, hateful political narrative. And just so you know, it wasn't a one-off.
This shit ends. Like, enough is enough. And now I have to deal with real safety concerns. It sounds like the shooter was a tranny or pro-tranny.
What a miserable fucking existence Nancy Mace must have. She must be the most fragile, empty shell of a person, that she is just filled up with all kinds of hate. She has a particular focus and hatred of trans people, which is wild because when her district, before it got gerrymandered, was more of a purple district, she acted like she was for LGBTQIA rights, but she's been viciously anti-trans. Those statements that she made repeatedly endangered the lives of trans people. She knowingly put a target on the back of every trans person in this country by making those completely unfounded bullshit claims. And now what? We know it was a white cis het man from a Republican family in Utah. She won't apologize. She never apologizes. She's desperate to become governor in her state. She thinks she's going to be governor because of her own craven political ambitions, but also because she thinks she's going to assist Project 2025 with their convention of the states. Right? They're trying to get alt-right governors in place all around the country so they can change the Constitution. But the second part here, I think that's important, is it wasn't just trans folks that were immediately targeted by the alt-right. I want to share a clip from my friend Morgan, and then I want to talk about a piece that came out in The Guardian today.
You all's privilege is screeching in our face right now. I hope you all understand that. I've tried to make so many videos about this topic, and there's too many thoughts, so I'm just say that. And it is hard to look past. It is hard to ignore you all processing it in real time at our expense, as we are actively getting threats at HBCUs, 5+ HBCUs, because of a crime committed by a white man against a white man in a predominantly white state.
First off, please go give Morgan a follow on TikTok because she's been getting quite a bit of awful treatment from MAGAs over the last week or so. She could really use your support, but also please understand that she's pointing out something that I think a lot of white folks on the internet having, our discourse about all of this are failing to understand, that the alt-right will use anything they possibly can to try to attack Black folks in America. They will use anything as an excuse to commit violence against Black people. The Guardian has a piece out today that says Black students across the U.S. were targeted this week by coordinated racist death threats, forcing at least 7 historically Black colleges into emergency lockdowns yesterday. This was in response to Charlie Kirk being killed at Utah Valley University. At New York University, Black students received threatening manifestos emailed to them. The manifesto was sent to the Black Student Union with extremely graphic threats of gun violence. The manifesto used racist slurs and said that Black students were taking away from the safety of white people. A number of other schools, including Virginia State, Hampton University, and Southern University in Baton Rouge, all received threats. The FBI told The Guardian that they were aware of hoax threat calls to a number of historically Black colleges and universities, but said none of them amounted to a credible threat. Again, a white cis-het man speaking to a predominantly white audience was shot by a white cis-het man, and it is trans folks and Black folks whose lives are in danger as a result. This is the thinking, this is the worldview of MAGA. I read a piece earlier this year that said that MAGA Christians are a cult of rage, grievance, and power. And I think that's what we're seeing on display right now from the right. And it's putting vulnerable members of our communities in real peril. So what are we going to do about it?